All right, it's time for another episode of the Nerdy Virgin podcast. And I'm just making sure that the audio is working, which indeed it is. I had so much energy when I was ready to start this, but then when I checked the audio, I lost that energy and I suddenly kind of went into that blank space. Can we, hi, welcome to the Nerdy Virgin podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Snyder. Hi. Yeah, now that's manufactured. Okay, all right. Authenticity. I'm trying to go for authenticity. Hi, welcome to the Nerdy... I'm tired. There we go. That feels right. I'm tired. Welcome to the Nerdy Virgin podcast. I'm Josh. It's a little too hot in the room, and I don't want to turn on the fan. That's what's happening right now. I don't want to turn on the fan right now. Not because it would create a sound problem. I don't care enough about that. I should care more about that, about making sure the sound for this is as pristine as possible. But I can't explain it to you right now. I just don't feel like having the fan on. Here's what I'm panicking about, by the way. I'm panicking that I signed a 1-year lease on the place I'm at right now, and I enjoy the place I'm at right now. I don't want to leave. We're coming up on the end of the 1-year lease, and I'm terrified of what's going to happen next. I'm terrified that I'm going to be rejected. In all reality, I think it just goes to month, but I'm looking at the contract and it says it goes to month with the written approval of the landlord. And so that, I don't know, I guess I'm afraid he's going to knock on the door and say, listen, we want to see other people. And I'm like, but this isn't a relationship. This is just we never talk, and I don't, I've been a good tenant. Yeah, but you don't have abs. You don't have abs. And that's why I was kicked out of my apartment, because I didn't have abs. And I'll take them to court. I will take them to court, and we will fight it. And they'll make a movie about it where a really talented British character actor plays my attorney. And they will win the Academy Award. That is what will happen. That was an incredible tangent on where I went. A total tangent on where I went to. I didn't expect to go there. I don't think you expected to go there. I don't think we expected to go there. Now I'm playing with pronouns. Got to be very careful about the pronouns in this day and age, which is amazing. This new world of gender identity is so much better than what I had to grow up with. What I had to grow up with, there's two boxes. There's the straight box and there's the gay box. And you're in one or you're in the other. You can't be in both. You can't jump. It's very rigid. And that is our understanding of how the human body works. It is very rigid. It is very rigid. But teacher, what if I have you don't have those feelings. That is not possible. You are either this or you are that. Nah. No teacher ever talked to me like that. That was what my own brain was telling me. Who would have thought that my view of sexuality would be dysfunctional coming out of the public high school that I came out of? Who would think that the notion of gender identity would not be fostered in a healthy way in a public school environment? Who would have suspected that? Who would have guessed? But enough about that. This doesn't need to be a pointed social commentary. I went to the doctor last week. Not to the doctor specifically, but to the to get some tests done. My bilirubin level is up. They got to make sure it's not something serious. So they scanned my liver. I got a full scan of my liver. And I did two tests at the same appointment. And they scanned my liver, and they used some kind of gel that was hot to the touch, not cold to the touch. I had to take another test a week ago where they had gel that was cold. They said, "Oh, this is going to be cold." Well, why didn't they use the hot stuff? Why did they use the cold stuff? They just walk over to the next building, to the next room probably. They've got the hot stuff. I'm sure there's a logical reason for it. Or there's not, which wouldn't surprise me and terrifies me. Then I had to get a CT scan because I guess they're checking for kidney stones. And I noticed that on the scan, it's a giant donut-shaped scanner. And I lie on a table that goes in between, through the donut, basically, as it scans me. And on the top of the scanner was written, breathe in, breathe out on magic marker, using magic marker on tape. Handwritten on this giant, $100,000 scanner. And I think what happened is the reason why they had to do that is because the scanner had two displays, one of a person breathing in and the other one of a person breathing out. Like it was like not a hand-drawn thing. This was like built into the scanner. Almost like a walk, don't walk sign, but a breathe in sign and a breathe out sign. And my guess is that they had to handwrite breathe in and breathe out because people were not getting from the illustration which one was breathe in and which one was breathe out. So the artistry, it was too esoteric, I guess. It was going over people's heads. That's what happens when you hire Pablo Picasso to design your breathe in, breathe out people. It was a little too artsy-fartsy. So they hand wrote breathe in and breathe out, and it's great if you can read English. And if you can't read English, now you're seeing symbols in a foreign language handwritten on a machine, which I think seems even creepier. I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's distressing to see somebody handwrite something and tape it on a $100,000 machine. It's creepy. It's like, okay, this just doesn't seem very. You would have expected that they would have built the breathe, don't breathe signage into the machine for what they were spending on a machine of that caliber. Or it's not a machine of that caliber. Or they got it at Radio Shack. Maybe that's what happened. I'm not sure, and I'm concerned. So I'm listening to Mark Maron's podcast, and he's talking about how California may soon be uninhabitable, which freaked me out because I enjoy living in California, and I don't want to move. And he's talking about, well, where am I going to move? And then I'm thinking, well, where am I going to move? And I enjoy choosing the podcasts where the person I'm listening to can have a breakdown, and then I can have a breakdown in sort of a domino effect of breakdowns. Truly fantastic. So then I started to think, well, where do I want to live? And I like living in coastal areas, but there's a problem with the coast is shifting with climate change. So that might be problematic. So the good news is if I move inland, I just have to wait a few years, and then it will become coastal living. You got to find the silver lining in the cloud full of acid rain. That's why there is a silver lining. The cloud is full of acid rain, and there's silver in the cloud. It's going to rain down, and if you're in the rainstorm when the silver rain comes down, it will melt your skin off. So the silver lining is actually, in and of itself, is now the danger. That's what we've taken away from this bit. But I'm waiting for the test results. They said it's going to take a week. Great, I can worry for a week. Fantastic. Whole week of worrying. Love it. And hopefully there's nothing wrong. Hopefully I can, I want to live as long as possible. The trouble is, even if there's nothing wrong with my CT scan, there may be something wrong with the planet. And without a planet, it really doesn't matter how good my liver function is. there is no planet on which to have good liver function. And this may be an issue coming down the pike. Transition, 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 transition. So I'm trying to make this thing a little bit more produced. I'm trying to put some production value. This thing needs some production value. I was listening to the podcast and I couldn't help but feel that it needed production value. So we're gonna spruce things up. We're gonna throw on some widgets and some wackets, and I think it'll be good. It'll be fun. But I had this idea that instead of just talking about my feelings for the whole thing, maybe we can chop it up a little bit, and I can do some other stuff. And my idea I had is just an improvised science fiction story that I will start doing on some of these podcasts. And the plan is that it will become hugely successful, and I will no longer need to drive myself places. Or I'll do it for one or two more podcasts and then go back to doing what I was doing before. One of the two, friends. We don't know which one is going to be the one, but we are here today, and we are doing what we need to do today, right now, for this. All right? That's my terrible Irish accent. All right, improvised science fiction story. So I think it's got to definitely be today. The theme is mass migration as a result of climate change. And as it so happens, we couldn't go north because there's going to be a global freeze like in the movie The Day After Tomorrow. And we couldn't stay in California because there's going to be mega fires. And California is going to kind of turn into a cross between Mad Max and Escape from L.A. It turns out there's only one 5-mile square area in Ecuador. That's the only place on Earth where you can go where it's mild, where it's a balmy 70 degrees most days. And they have to build a giant fence to wall out all of the barbarians and mutants, and it's sort of become like the last paradise on Earth, and everything else is just desert, and what have you. And here's the thing: there's a utopian community within this 5-mile square Garden of Eden at the edge of the universe. There's a utopian paradise, and outside you don't want to go outside, because as I mentioned, there are mutants. There are savages of some terrible kind. Mutant savages. And I want to be clear, by the way, when I say savages, because I think that term, as I'm saying it, I'm going, ooh, that's a loaded term that I would dare say is almost derogatory when talking about native people who have been exploited. So I want to make sure I when I say savages, what I mean is these are mutants that are descended from Adam Savage, who's that guy from Mythbusters, and so they're mutants who are really big on building movie props. They're actually quite delightful, and not at all a problem. But there are also other mutants, and there are other gangs who are also quite dangerous. And you know the other thing that's out there? I'll tell you the other thing that's out there. That is perhaps one of the most dangerous creatures of all. Butterflies with machine guns. How did that happen, you ask? Fantastic question. There was a geneticist and a cyberneticist who had too much free time. Too much free time. And I think our story centers around a guy in the utopian world. His name is Jeff Greenblossom. Because in the utopian world, your last name is the name of a flower. And Jeff's problem is he's not sure that Greenblossom is a real flower, and he's not sure how he got the last name. And he asked his parents, and his parents said, "Don't ask those questions. We don't ask those questions here in the Garden of Eden on the edge of the universe. We don't ask those questions." You should not ask too many questions. Just be grateful that you live behind the giant electrified fence. And just be grateful that you don't have to deal with butterflies with machine guns. And Jeff would say, how exactly does that work? Because are they giant butterflies? Or is it a regular-sized butterfly with a regular-sized machine gun that just a really strong butterfly that can actually carry the machine gun with it? And it just doesn't seem like, it seems unwieldy. I'm assuming it has to be giant butterflies with, are they holding the machine guns, or is the machine gun actually built into the butterfly? And if it's a mechanical machine gun and the butterfly procreates, you're saying the children are going to also have mechanical machine gun? Are these being constructed? Are these and then his parents would say, hey, you're asking too many questions. It's a butterfly with a machine gun. All right? It's a butterfly with a machine gun. That's what is out there. If you go beyond this wall, that is what you will encounter. Do not go beyond this wall. Of course, when you tell someone don't go beyond the wall, the first thing they want to do is go beyond the wall. Now, Jeff had a friend, and his friend's name was Rose Lily. Not to be confused with Lily Rose, who's the daughter of Johnny Depp. This is Rose Lily. Totally different person, because this is 100 years in the future. Rose Lily, who was annoyed because her first and last name were named after flowers, and that's just not how it was done. And she, people made fun of her. Well, you have two last names, Rose Lily. And she would often complain about that to her parents, and her parents would say, don't question it. Just don't question it. Your name is Rose Lily. So one day, Rose Lily and Jeff are sitting there, and Jeff is going, listen, I don't want to encounter butterflies with machine guns. That's not at all what I'm looking for, but I can't help but wonder what's beyond the wall. And Rose Lily said, what's the best case scenario of what's on the other side of the wall? We're living in paradise. We don't have to worry about anything. What are you hoping for? What are you hoping for? And Jeff said, I don't even really know. I guess, dare I say knowledge? And Rose Lily says, all right, so come on. We are living in a metaphor. We are living in a biblical metaphor, and you just said you want knowledge. Are you out of your mind? What's the matter with you? And Jeff said, I thought we were more like-minded on this. And Rose Lily said, I've got too many problems to deal with going over the wall, all right? And Jeff said, but I guess I was kind of assuming that I would say something like, hey, I'm curious to know what's over the other side of the wall, and you'd say, yeah, I'm kind of curious too, and we're both kind of young and impressionable, and we want adventure, and so maybe we would go over the side of the wall, and Rose Lily said, this is turning into an episode of Rick and Morty, okay? This is ridiculous. I don't want to deal with butterflies with machine guns, let alone butterflies with handguns, which I hear there's also out there. Okay, now Jeff stopped right there. All right. So you're saying they have different kinds of guns, the butterflies. Who's doing this? Why would they do this? And Rose Lily says, what do you mean, why would they do this? If I had the technical and the biological expertise to create a butterfly with a machine gun or a handgun, you think I wouldn't? Why wouldn't you do that? And Jeff said, well, because I think they would cause a lot of damage, certainly to the biosphere and certainly to other animals around them. And Rose Lily said, well, now you've got me thinking about it. Because I'm wondering how many different kind of guns would these butterflies have? Or, Rose continued, or maybe they're just mutant butterflies that have the guns, and they have a weapons locker somewhere, and that's what I want. I want to know if the guns are built in or if they're not. And Jeff said, that's exactly what I want to know. And Rose said, all right, so I guess basically what we're talking about is we are actually trying to seek out the butterflies with the guns. And Jeff said, I know it's dumb, but I can't just sit here. No one knows the answer to this. So they decided, they stole away at the dead of night, in the middle of night, and they had done some research, and they determined that there was an old, ancient hatch that could take them outside the electrified wall. And they went through the hatch, and it was old and it was ancient, and unlocked, though, totally unlocked. Hopefully it was locked from the outside. They were about to find out. And so they crawled through. It was like, it was a good half mile. I mean, this is a big walled electric fence. This was huge. This was, you don't want to know how long it took to build and how many independent contractors you had to deal with. Like, they thought it was only going to be 100, well, not 100 years, because this is only 50 or 100 years in the future. They thought it was only going to be a year. It took them 10 years to build all 4 of the walls. It was tough. They get to the outer wall. They open the outer hatch. They walk out. And at that point, there it is, Butterfly with the machine gun, right there. And it turns out it is, in fact, a giant mutant butterfly the wingspan was 15 feet, and the machine guns were somehow grafted onto the butterfly. And the butterfly looked at them, and they looked at the butterfly. And the butterfly said, I'm not taking questions. This always happens. One of you utopians, or 2 of you utopians, comes out here, you immediately start asking, where did I come from? And I'm not on display here. And Jeff said, listen, we don't want to bother you, all right? We don't, just looking at you has already answered about, 50 to 60% of the questions that we had about what you are. We just don't want to get killed, And the butterfly with the machine gun says, see, that's typical. You see one butterfly with a machine gun, and you just assume, because we have a machine gun grafted onto us, that we're immediately just going to kill whatever we see. And that is not at all what we are like. That is a stereotype that we've been fighting for who knows how long. And Jeff said, well, all right, that's good to know. We were just kind of curious what it's like out here. And the butterfly said, what do you mean? It's awful. Why do you think your people live inside this electrified fence? It's basically there's a very, very, very loose confederation of gangs and territories. There's an enormous amount of death and poverty and murder and horrors that are unspeakable. And Jeff said, well, curious, because I read that book, Brave New World, and I think there was a kind of and the butterfly said, don't even start with Brave New World. Don't even start. It's not that. It's not that. Things outside your world are bad. Things inside the world are good. It's that black and white, unfortunately. And then Jeff said, well, do you have any, desire to come in with us? And the butterfly said, no, I don't. I don't, because I like things bad. And a lot of us out here like things bad. You like things good, and that's fine, but we like things bad. We like having no hope. And Jeff said, well, why? And the butterfly said, because when there's no hope, it's more easy. It is easier to be pleasantly surprised when randomly something good happens. And Jeff was like, well, that's kind of profound. And the butterfly said, yeah, I suppose it is. I suppose it is kind of profound. You know that show, that ancient show, Curb Your Enthusiasm? We on the outside all do that. Nobody has any expectation that anything is going to get better. I mean, I was talking to the leader of the Gang of New York, and by the way, if you ever encounter the Gang of New York, any member of the Gang of New York, don't say, hey, you like the movie The Gangs of New York. Don't do that. They do not like that. It's very irritating. And I was talking to that leader, and he was saying, it's awful. It's just, you think being the leader of the gang at the very least would be a little bit less awful because you can order other people around. But he's like, now I've got this responsibility. I got to take care of this whole gang in New York. And I have to be careful how I say it or what I say because, they don't like that their name is like the name of a movie that's really not, it's kind of tangentially related to their current reality. So yeah, it's just, it's horrible out here. It is exactly what you thought, and it's exactly what they said. Anything else? And Jeff looked at Rose, and Rose said, it really sucks that the two male characters in the story have gotten the majority of the dialogue. I just got to point that out. That there needs to be a little bit more equality in the casting here in this science fiction story. I just want to point that out. Okay, I'm not mad. I'm disappointed. And the other two kind of didn't know what to say at that point. And Rose is like, I feel like even the narrator of this story is a dude, and that's just okay. So this is from the male perspective. Fantastic. At which point, the narrator of the story is now suddenly concerned that by poking a little bit of fun at the inequality of gender in storytelling, is he, by poking fun in a way, setting back the progress that is made in gender equality in storytelling. And now he's in his head about that and terrified of criticism, at which point another voice in his head, the voice of reason, would say, your total podcast listenership right now is like 5 people. I think you're fine. Why don't you get back and tie up this narrative, such as it is. Is this a story? It's a conversation between 2 utopian humans and a butterfly with a machine gun. It's more of a dialogue than a story. But back to the narrative. So you got Rose, who's saying, well, I guess we should go back. And at that point, the hatch closed behind them and locked. And they realized, we don't know how to get back in. The lock's not, it locks from the outside. And the butterfly with the machine gun said, yes, it kind of does, to prevent people like me from coming in, even though none of us want to because we don't want to be that happy. And Jeff says, well, we got to figure out a way to get back in. And Rose said, I'm really afraid that this story is going to be like a parable of the Garden of Eden, and we're expelled, and now we have to go suffer. And the butterfly with the machine gun said, well, that would certainly be the easy way to tie this thing up, wouldn't it? That would be lazy writing, frankly. And Jeff said, yeah, it would be. And Rose said, yeah, it would be. And there was a pause. And in that pause, there was a moment of understanding that in the entire universe that is being created as we speak, the author of this story was thinking it really would be nice to have a sandwich. And we could just tie it up. But no, that would be lazy writing. So the butterfly said, listen, I'm going to help you get back in. And Jeff said, well, what can you do? And the butterfly said, what can I do? What can I, you're really at, what can I do? Move out of the way. Both of you move out of the way. And the butterfly took its machine guns, pointed the machine guns at the hatch, and blew out the hatch with the machine gun. I can't believe you asked me that. What can I do? Yeah, I don't know. Call AAA. That's what I can do. I'm a butterfly with machine guns. Unbelievable that you would ask me that question. Just, what are they teaching you there? Butterfly with machine gun. Use machine gun. A plus B. Or 1 plus 1 is 2. You get it. And Rose said, we super appreciate what you did here. We really did. Now the problem is, we got to repair the lot. We got to repair the hatch now. How do we repair the hatch? And we can't repair it from the outside, because if we repair it from the outside, well, then we'll lock and we'll be out, and then we'll be, doing this all over again. And the butterfly sighed again and said, do I have to explain everything? Okay, fine. You need to find a moth repairman. And as luck would have it, a moth repairman happened to over here and fly in and say, ooh, did somebody say moth repairman? I'm a moth repairman. And the butterfly said, why are you talking like that? And the moth repairman said, this is how I always talk. I'm the moth repairman. Hello. Does somebody need a repair of some kind? Ah, yes, I see. You've blown off the hatch. Yes. And Jeff said, so you can repair it? Absolutely, I can repair it. And Rose said, what do you charge? And the moth said, I charge only love. Only love is what I charge. I will repair this if you promise to love each other, to truly love each other for the rest of your life. And the butterfly said, I genuinely don't know what's happening right now. I don't know why this moth is acting like this. Is the weirdest moth repairman I've ever met. 99% of the moth repairmen I've met are just regular moths who repair things. This is very weird. And Jeff turned to Rose, and Jeff said, I think I can do that. I can love you for the rest of my life. And Rose turned to Jeff, and Rose said, 5 years at least. And Jeff said, what? And Rose said, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I've struggled with long-term commitments, and longest I was ever in a relationship was 4 months. 5. It was 5 months. It's 4.5 months. It was 4.5. Because I think, did we break up on the 15th? Yeah, we broke up on the 15th. we got together on the 1st, and then it was the 15th, the 1st of January. So January, February, March, and it was April 15th that tax day. We broke up on tax day. Ugh, that was a bad day for everybody. Anyway, so I don't know if I want to commit to the. I feel like I know you enough to know that after about 5 years, I would have to make a choice of, all right, do I commit myself to this person or am I done? And Jeff was like, well, that's I was kind of hoping for some reciprocity. And Rose was like, I'm giving you 5 years of my life. Come on. And Jeff turned to the moth repairman and said, is that enough, love? And the moth repairman said, yes. Yes, it is enough. Why don't you go on in and I'll just repair this? You kids have a great life, you kids. You kids have a great life. And the butterfly said, I need to leave. This moth is creeping me out. I'm leaving right now. And I'm going to go ahead and say that's the end of the story. There you go. They returned to the utopia, and everyone else outside the utopia was miserable, but somehow okay with that. And in another 50 years, there were no more humans. So there you go.